decision quite fast.
Follow your
Thank you,
sergeants.
CIA politely replied as she went away with Layla. There were more than enough rooms in the castle for everyone to get a good night's sleep. But before they could enjoy the nice, relaxing, comfy, soft beds, they were all busy doing their own things. Quinn and Peter were busy training away in the reception area. With Edward gone, they felt like it was possible that there could be vampires on the outside keeping an eye on them, and for now, the safest place was the castle, where the only people who knew the combination to the circle lock were Peter, Quinn, and Edward himself. As for the two girls, Layla tried to fill her in with more detail about what had happened in her past, including things about Pure. Timmy, he was worried about Edward, wondering why he hadn't come back yet. What will I do? Timmy thought. He didn't really know the others well, and although he had agreed to follow the 10th, what they were planning to do, it was too much of a big step for him. Quinn had told Timmy he didn't expect him to do anything. Just telling them where to go, and being their guide was helpful enough. He looked at the book in his hands that was given by Edward. For once he had the chance to gain power, to be stronger than some of the other vampires. What was the point if he had this power? Who was he getting stronger for? For the other vampire leaders? Still, undecided with what he would do, Timmy knew he wouldn't waste this opportunity and opened the book. He wouldn't waste the gift and learn the ability given by Edward. The ones that were busiest though was Logan, and the two boys. Having taken a blood sample from Borden, he was trying to see if the details matched up with the green liquid he had created. It wouldn't take long for him to find out the results, and after a short while, he had his answer. It was me, I somehow gave the information that was needed to create the Dalki. Logan thought. It wasn't just a small match, but a complete match. It was clear in Logan's mind that the information he had input into the machine was shared somewhere and it led to the creation of the Dalki. The question was why? Why was the machine set up in the 10th castle this way? Twin system had an Ari that was created by the 10th leader. The 10th leader had a lab that shared information from the sound of it to the original lab they first arrived at that belonged to Richard Inno. Were the 10th leader and Richard Inno somehow related? Were they doing experiments on vampires, Dalkis and humans? Or was the Dalki a complete man-made creation? Perhaps a vampire creation would be the more accurate term. It was clear though, somehow the 10th leader was involved in Richard Inno. They could even possibly be the same person. So many theories were running through Logan's head, and he didn't have all the answers. He wanted to talk to Quinn about it, but now was not the right time. He had too much on his plate with the rescue mission. But as long as the rescue mission was a success and they were able to get out of here alive, then Logan and Quinn needed to have a serious talk. Not wanting to scare the other two, Logan moved on to look at the pills and blood crystals. While doing this, Borden was busy talking away to Borden. The two of them seemed to be getting on quite well, and Borden was telling him everything that had happened at school. How he had met Quinn and what they were doing here so far, how they were here to rescue a friend. Wow, it sounds like you have been through a lot, Borden said. Well, a friend of my brother is a friend of mine. If you need any help, I'll take them out with this fist of mine. Flexing his muscle, which incredibly bulged in a matter of seconds. It had become so lean it looked like there wasn't an ounce of fat on him. But I have to ask, Borden said. This whole time you have talked about Quinn, your friends and the others, but what about you? I want to know more about you. Don't you have a family or a past? Hearing this question, it had been a while since anyone had asked him about his family. It was a subject that he would avoid at all cost. That situation is probably even more complicated than the one we are in now. Maybe one day, it will be resolved as well. I hope I can forget about all that and just continue hanging out with everybody like we are doing now. I know it sounds stupid, what we're doing is incredibly dangerous, but I just like being with everyone. Borden said with a smile on his face. When you are ready, you can tell me, brother, and I will help you with that too, Borden replied. After looking at the pills and getting as much information as he could, it was getting late, and Logan's eyelids were feeling heavy. They felt like it was time to call it a night. He could find out information about the blood crystal tomorrow. Before going to sleep, Quinn decided to stop by and have a talk with the girls, and he was ready to give his answer. I'm sorry, but right now, I can't turn you into a vampire, Quinn said. First, I promise that I will look for a way to return your memories, and I think what you proposed is a fair deal. But it's too risky right now to turn you. We don't have time to figure out or deal with another problem if one does happen. On top of that, your ability is incredibly handy, especially for Vorden. I think as you are right now it's best to stay the way you are. As I said, I think we have a deal, but let's do it after tomorrow. CIA couldn't really complain about the response, as it was exactly what she asked for. Maybe it would take a little while longer, but she knew they would have to deal with the current situation anyway. After a good night's rest, everyone continued to do the same as they had done yesterday. Everyone was kind of doing their own thing, but when all was said and done, once again they were to all meet in the dining room. As Edward hasn't returned, it looks like we will have to do this without him, Quinn said. It's finally time, the execution is tomorrow. Chapter 465, Fex's birthday, the final day. Finally, it was the day of the execution. It was something that was meant to be a simple event, yet it had turned into a big deal and a grand spectacle. When a vampire was sentenced to death, it often was not done in public, yet this one was chosen to be done differently. And with it, it seemed like a problem after problem was occurring for the vampires. At first, they were unsure if these events and problems that were accruing were linked, but now many of them were sure about it, they had to be. Nuka, the ninth leader, had been personally guarding Fex's cell ever since the event of that day. Since then, there had not been any new incidents. What this also meant, though, was that there wasn't much chance for him to do an investigation into what happened. Usually, he would leave such tasks to his vampire knights, but they were dead. Still, he had made a promise to Silver that he would look after Fex, and that he surely did. The circle lock combination was input in and the door to the cell was open. It is time, Nuka said. The execution was to take place in the plaza. It was a large open circular area that was able to be filled with an insane amount of people and could easily accommodate thousands of them. Around the edges, it was filled with shops aligned by the side. The vampire settlement was still just like any other town, where there would be restaurants and shops for entertainment and gifts. However, today all these places were empty, and the table and chairs that would usually be placed outside were put away. At one end of the large open area, a stage had been built. A large platform that was 2 meters off of the ground had been made just for the execution. The time of the execution was close, and the plaza was now filled with nearly every single vampire in the settlement. A space in front of the platform had been cleared, as vampires from the first family acted as guards, not allowing anyone to get within 20 meters of the stage. It looked more like a crowd of people at a concert as they all stared at the front. The public execution was a big deal for several reasons, and it was the reason for the high turnout of people. Rumor had spread of it being one of the direct descendants. Everyone knew it was Fex, but they didn't know what crime he had committed. It was only during the execution that it would be mentioned. The second reason was because the news about it had already spread, that all the leaders would be present. Not every vampire got to see what the leaders looked like, or would ever dream to see them in their lifetime. So this would be a grand opportunity for that. In the crowd of people, everyone was waiting excitedly, although there were some that looked more nervous than others, especially those from the 13th family. There had already been a few incidents in the crowd here and there that needed to be calmed down. Going through the crowd of people was a large-chested blonde woman. I can't seem to find her anywhere, Amy thought. Everyone in the whole school is here. I thought it would be easy to spot her. Where is she? Amy had been wandering around to see if she could find Layla anywhere, but so far she had no luck. She had enjoyed her time with Layla and was a little worried about her. She thought perhaps they could catch up after the execution was over. She continued to look around and eventually, she had run into a person that she wasn't really looking forward to seeing. Oh, it's you. I hate to ask this, but your pervy eyes might be better than mine. Have you seen Layla anywhere? Amy asked. Xander looked down at Amy. He didn't have a look of anger. He had a lot of time to reflect on his actions after everything had happened. And after losing 2 fights so close together, he thought that perhaps he had to work on self-improvement, rather than being so arrogant all the time. No, I haven't seen her, actually. And I haven't seen their little group that hangs around with her either. Oh, so you were trying to find her with your pervy eyes after all. Amy continued to tease Xander. She was one of the few people that could do this to him since they were childhood friends. What they didn't know was they weren't the only ones that were looking for the strange little group. Most of the students were stationed next to each other in the crowd. This was because they got on and talked with each other better, rather than staying with their parents. And standing by Xander and Amy's side was Frank and Snow. They too were looking around. Frank and Snow had sat next to Gordon during their time at school, and although they didn't talk much, they grew a respect for him, especially after showing Xander his place. They left with Timmy, right? Why can't I seem to find him either? While Amy was still twisting and turning her head, she saw a small quick black object that was shifting through the people. It was coming her way until it eventually hopped up and landed right in her chest. Hey, what the? Amy shouted. It quickly hopped off the bouncy objects and landed on top of a small boy's head. Sorry about that. My familiar, I don't know what got into him. And finally, there was one more boy in the group of students that was looking for someone else, that no one else was trying to find. It was Roken, who had asked his familiar to see if he could spot Quinn anywhere, not that he expected to find him, anyway. Don't worry. Frank said, no one can blame your little black friend here for hopping onto those. Amy was about to shout and complain, curse at the boy